All right, look at the guy to port. Look at the left one. He is on the deck. On the deck, below the bridge wing.
In military parlance, it might be the equivalent of two children playing pranks on one another, running away and hiding in order to avoid being chastised. The recent buzzing of an American naval ship by a Russian fighter jet lit up the world of alarmists who were concerned this was an aggressive act, perhaps leading to something much more disastrous. But let's put our nuclear codes in the back pocket for a moment, take it from another side. The one that yawns and calls it just another day at the office when it comes to war games between superpowers. Underneath the surface, what does it tell us about plans of the Russian military and Russian leaders who are back to playing Cold War games seeking to antagonize the United States? Buckle up the 5-point harness. Let's get back to work. Welcome back, Research Director for the European Leadership Network, formerly with the Polish Institute of National Affairs, Lukasz Kulesa. Lukasz, it's a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you again about this specifically, because the first thing that comes to mind, knowing what I just said, I speak to military officials around the world every now and then, friends of mine, they say this stuff happens every single day. So what's the big deal about this one?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again. It's a great pleasure. But unfortunately, it usually happens at these moments of crisis. So yes, for some may say this is pretty routine thing, especially starting from 2014, when the relationship between the United States and Russia basically collapsed over the Russian aggression in Ukraine. But at the same time, we've seen a number of incidents, but we also see the ups and downs. And some of these incidents do not look as dangerous and are as dangerous as this one. Just think of the situation in which the Russian pilot is not as good as he thinks it is and flies this 10 or 20 meters too close to a US ship. Think about the casualties and think about the diplomatic fallout.
I think here's one of the things that we need to point out. The Russian plane, it was an Su-24. There were no visible weapons during the passes. At no point did the USS Donald Cook find any reason for them to believe that the jet was locking onto them at any single time. So, but when you put all that together, is this just aggression, Lukasz, or is this just taunting that goes on every single day?
Well, it is first and foremost, as the US military says, unprofessional. In a sense that even if you want to show that you are there, you can do it in a way that is much less aggressive. Also, the issue is not whether there are weapons or not, but whether, is this a kind of behavior that we would like to see between the two superpowers with nuclear weapons. So I think the United States has every right to be angry. There was actually a Cold War bilateral agreement on avoiding this kind of incidents, which explicitly says that you should not do this kind of acrobatics. It's called aerial acrobatics in the vicinity of other states' navy. So it's not only dangerous, I would also say it's also against the rules that Russia subscribed to.
The Russian version, the tweet that you put out on Russia's version of what happened, is almost comical, really, when you look at it, when there's a tweet out, "Mr. Officer, we were just flying around like casually when this big bad U.S. ship came out of nowhere." These are Russians, just quite frankly, they're having a laugh at the expense of the United States here. So with about a minute to go, though, Lukasz, what does this tell us about Vladimir Putin? What does this tell us about his military? What does this tell us, then, about the growing threat that people believe Russia is becoming, that they are, quite frankly, thanks to Putin, back to the Cold War, trying to push as hard as they can?
Of course, I was summarizing and also lampooning the Russian position, which was like, we had just a basic training flight and the American ship happened to be in our course, which doesn't make sense. They knew exactly what they were doing. So is this going to another level and being more aggressive? I don't think so. This is just showing very clearly that to the Americans that you are not welcomed in the Baltic Sea, you are not welcome in the Black Sea, and frankly speaking, you must be doing something right in terms of your policy in Europe and your support from other NATO countries that it gets the Russians so angry.
30 seconds. Was this also a message to NATO from Vladimir Putin?
I think so. We will be seeing this kind of incidents as we go towards the NATO summit, which will be in July in Warsaw. And of course, NATO would be discussing the ways to strengthen deterrence, defense, and also presence in the East. And it might be a way for the Russians to say that we're not pleased with the decisions that you would make in Warsaw.
They are games, but they are dangerous games none the least, because imagine if
Definitely.
one finger had slipped, one person had been just an inch off, and it is something that can start a war in other times, of course. We'll continue to watch. Lukasz Kulesa, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope we speak again soon. Now, for some, it has become a simple no-win situation on the Republican side. And the time, according to them, has come to surrender the convention fight and just let the inevitable happen. We're going to talk about that and more when we continue with the political animal next on The Hardline.